Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm diving into a powerful and emotionally charged story that shows what real strength looks like, not just in muscle or training, but in discipline, courage, and the ability to remain calm even when pushed beyond limits. This story centers on a quiet waitress who walked into her shift expecting nothing more than a long evening and a few difficult customers. What she didn't expect was to be soaked, insulted, mocked, and pushed to the edge by a group of loud bullies who thought they owned the place. What they didn't expect was that the woman they were harassing wasn't just a waitress trying to earn her paycheck. She was an active Navy SEAL commander working undercover during her off-rotation days, trained to face situations far worse than a handful of disrespectful men with too much liquor and too little discipline. She started her shift like any other night, calm, steady, polite. The bar was busy, people were loud, the air was heavy with laughter and the usual noise of clinking glasses. She moved quickly between tables, keeping her focus on her work, staying invisible the way she preferred. Years of military discipline had taught her how to observe without drawing attention. She noticed the group the moment they walked in: 5 men, already drunk, voices too loud, egos too inflated, and the type who felt stronger only when someone else was pushed down. She had seen that dynamic countless times in her military career. She wasn't intimidated, she wasn't bothered, she was simply aware. Their comments started small, whispers, snickers, nudges, then they grew bolder, louder, more invasive. She ignored them with the same composure she used during high-pressure missions. But bullies thrive on attention, and when they don't get it, they escalate. One of the men made a crude comment when she passed by. Another snapped his fingers at her like she was an object. She kept serving, kept her head high, gave them no reaction. That only fueled their need to get one. When she returned to their table to refill their drinks, one of them suddenly grabbed his glass and tipped it toward her. Cold liquid splashed across her shirt and down her arms. The entire table erupted in laughter. One leaned back in his chair and said the words that shifted everything. "Drink it, B*TCH. The bar went silent around them. Even people who had been lost in their own conversations turned. The bullies froze in anticipation of a reaction, expecting anger, fear, shame, anything to entertain them. They had no idea who they were dealing with. She stood there completely still. Drops of liquid slid down her shirt, but her breathing didn't change. Her expression didn't break, and her eyes were calm in a way that unsettled everyone watching. She placed the empty pitcher on the table, wiped her hands with a small towel, and then looked directly at the man who had splashed her. Her voice was low, steady, and controlled. "Is that how you talk to women in uniform too?" she asked. The man blinked, confused. "What uniform?" He smirked, still trying to act tough. She leaned slightly closer, her tone sharp now, sharp enough to cut through their drunken haze. "United States Navy," she said. "More specifically, your Navy SEAL commander?" The bullies stiffened instantly. Chairs creaked as bodies froze mid-motion. Their laughter died, their fake confidence evaporated, and every single one of them stared at her as if they were seeing her for the first time. A Navy SEAL, a commander. They didn't even know women could reach that level. They didn't know anything, really, except that suddenly they were in trouble. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten them. She didn't need to. The authority in her tone alone could straighten the spine of any soldier on a battlefield. "You just assaulted a serving officer," she continued calmly. "You disrespected my position, my service, and this establishment." One of the men tried to stammer an apology, but the words stumbled out of him like loose bricks. She held up a hand, signaling him to stop talking. After years of commanding some of the most elite operators in the world, her gestures carried weight. Even bullies could sense it. She told them she had the legal right to press charges for assault and harassment. She reminded them that every corner of the bar had security cameras. She explained with chilling precision how their actions could be documented and reported, how one drunken moment of cruelty could follow them for years. The men swallowed hard, their bravado dissolving into panic. Then, in the same collected tone, she gave them a choice. Either they clean up their mess, apologize to every staff member they harassed, pay their full bill with a 35% tip for the trouble they caused, and walk out quietly, or she would call the local police chief, a former SEAL teammate who owed her more than one favor. The decision took less than a second. The men scrambled to grab napkins, wiping the table with shaky hands. They apologized repeatedly, stumbling over themselves to sound sincere. Their voices trembled, their faces flushed with humiliation. Every patron watching could see the shift. How quickly a bully becomes a coward when confronted by someone who cannot be intimidated. She didn't gloat. She didn't smile. She simply watched them with the same calm authority she used when evaluating her team before a mission. When they finished cleaning up, she took their payment, nodded once, and stepped aside. They left the bar without looking back. The moment they were gone, the room erupted with quiet admiration. Customers whispered to one another about what they had just seen. Some offered supportive nods. A few were stunned speechless. The manager hurried over to check if she was all right, but she assured him she was perfectly fine. Later, when she walked into the staff room to change her soaked shirt, one of the younger waitresses followed her. She had been watching the entire time, her eyes wide with respect. The younger woman admitted she had been scared for her, scared the bullies would escalate, scared something worse might happen. But what she witnessed instead was strength, unlike anything she had seen before. The commander placed a reassuring hand on the young woman's shoulder and said something she never forgot. Courage isn't about fighting. It's about knowing when you don't need to. That line became a reminder for everyone who heard it that night. Word of the incident spread quickly through the local community. Some customers posted vague stories online about the mystery military woman who shut down a group of bullies with just her voice. Others praised her calmness, saying she represented the best traits the military could offer. Even though she didn't seek attention or credit, the story resonated with thousands. Several weeks later, one of the men who had been part of the bullying group returned to the bar alone. He wasn't drunk this time. He wasn't loud or obnoxious. He approached her with slow, hesitant steps. She recognized him immediately, but didn't acknowledge it. He placed an envelope on the counter and said quietly, "I was wrong." Then he walked away before she could respond. Inside the envelope was a handwritten apology and money enough to cover the entire staff's meals for the night. She didn't need the gesture, but she appreciated the accountability. This experience became one of those rare moments when kindness meets strength, when calm meets chaos, and when someone who has every skill to destroy a threat chooses instead to teach a lesson through discipline and dignity. The commander never bragged about the encounter. She never retold the story with drama or exaggeration. She returned to her military duties, returned to her quiet shifts, and continued living with the same leadership qualities that defined her career. She led not with intimidation, but with presence, not with force, but with integrity. And that's what makes this story so powerful, because the real message isn't about a Navy SEAL commander putting bullies in their place. It's about the fact that strength doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it looks like control. Sometimes it looks like calm. Sometimes it looks like a woman standing in a bar, soaked in cold liquid, refusing to break, because she's faced far worse and come out stronger every time. This story reminds us that respect is never optional, and underestimating someone based on their job, appearance, or gender can be the biggest mistake a bully will ever make. It proves that real power doesn't shout. It doesn't brag. It doesn't threaten. Real power simply stands there unshaken and demands respect by its presence alone. And that is why the bullies froze that night. They didn't just realize they had harassed a Navy SEAL commander. They realized they had stood face with someone who embodied discipline on a level they couldn't comprehend. If you enjoyed this script and you want more stories like this, stick around for more powerful narratives built to inspire, entertain, and remind you what real strength looks like.